I can see how believing that Jesus actually rose Lazarus from the dead in a physical sense will help increase the faith of some, since every other kind of physical healing they may have requested would seem minor in comparison. If he can raise the dead, he can certainly heal their cancer, for example. Even though I risk unsettling the faith of some by telling people that it didn't really occur, but is really just an allegorical story meant to impart a historical reference point into the plan of redemption, I feel telling them the truth about what it really means will prove to be much more beneficial in the long run. Looking at it my way opens their eyes to the truth that I may in fact be Jesus, and I have returned, since I can't do physical healings either, while continuing to let them look at it their old way will keep them blind to that truth, since they are expecting physical healing miracles that don't really occur or happen as proof of my divinity. I'd rather have them believe that Jesus has returned than the false expectation of healings. If 1,000 years is like a day, then heaven is at least 36,000 times better than being here on earth. With reason, a logical man can demonstrate most of the major tenets of Christianity. However, there are some truths held by Christians that may even be inconsistent with reason, and therefore can only be held by faith, which requires us to accept the teaching authority of the church and the scriptures. Although we can no more than speculate, if it wasn't for the dogmatic teaching of the church that Mary's original sin may have been atoned for by the eternal Christ prior to her birth, which allows us to claim that she was immaculate conceived, but still received salvation through Christ like everyone else needs. We can know with absolute surety that it had at least occurred by the time it was announced to her that she, as the favored one, full of grace, would conceive and bear the Son of God, who would atone for the original sin of all believers. Because you can't be full of grace unless your original sin has been wiped clean. Jesus' conception and birth wiped out the original sin of Mary. Jesus' death and resurrection wiped out the original sin for the rest of us. I pray, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. I pray thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I pray give us this day our daily bread. I pray forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. And I pray lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil. If Martin Luther was excommunicated from the church for his unrepenting ways, and you choose to follow his Protestant ways, then you were also excommunicated and not part of the visible church. I expect everyone who is a real Christian to be part of both the visible and invisible church. If you try to kill someone but fail, you should still be executed. You're not being intellectually honest with yourself or morally honest with God if you were involved in some way with a sin. But you claim you're not really guilty of it just because you were not caught or they can't prove it. God requires us to be honest even when He doesn't expect us to admit it to anyone but Him and a priest during confession. You can say, Lord, Lord, all you want, but I never knew you because you weren't part of the Catholic Church. You need to become a Catholic unless you want to hear Jesus tell you that He never knew you. I did know some of you once, if you were raised a Catholic, but now I don't know you because you burnt off in your foolishness to find the Spirit elsewhere when you became a Protestant. The Bible may say not to bow down or worship idols. However, having a statue of Mary is not idol worship because it's not an idol, it's an icon. Furthermore, kneeling in prayer is not the same as bowing down. According to God's plan of salvation, Gentiles were predestined to be saved also. It's really sad how some former Catholics, in their extreme hatred for the Church, are willing to condemn their own grandmothers and mothers to hell because they think they weren't saved just because they said the rosary and asked Mary to pray for them. When in fact saying the rosary and praying to the Mother of Jesus on a daily basis is evidence of their salvation. Hating Mary and hating the Catholic Church go hand in hand for Protestants, since they are both our mother. I experienced so much anti-Catholic bigotry while in prison. It felt like I was in hell. Exhibiting hatred toward the Catholic Church is a grave sin that must be repented of if you hope to enter heaven. As a means of keeping Catholics from leaving the Church when they get older, they should be repeatedly told when they are young that if they ever leave the Church, they will end up going to hell. Driving this point home will make it a lot harder for Protestants to deceive them with their lies.